Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today's video is the English video on the bird flu. The Spanish one is already up on this channel. It is a sickness caused by the H5N1 virus. It is widespread in wild aquatic birds worldwide. It is causing outbreaks in domestic farm birds and has infected dairy cattle and some people. Recent human cases have been in people who work with farm birds and dairy cattle. The CDC says the risk to the general public is low. The current situation in the United States is widespread in wild birds. There are sporadic outbreaks in domestic farm birds, a multi-state outbreak in some dairy cow herds, sporadic infections in other mammals, and no person-to-person infections. It's most often contracted in humans by contact with sick birds. The symptoms begin within 2 to 8 days and can seem like the common flu, which is like cough, fever, headache, body aches, and shortness of breath. To protect your birds, you can keep their area clean. Wash your hands before going into where your birds live and after working with your birds. Use disinfectant on shoes or keep a pair of shoes near the bird enclosure to use only when you're working with your birds, or you can use the disposable shoe covers and throw them away after you're finished working with your birds. Wear clean clothes when you're caring for your birds, or you can use a disposable jacket or suit and throw it away after you're finished. You can clean their living areas or cages and change their food and water every day. You can clean and disinfect equipment that comes in contact with your birds or their excrement. Be sure to clean up any dirt, trash, and residue with soap and water, then disinfect it. Keep the bird area clean and orderly so it's easier to clean up. If you use borrowed or second-hand equipment or cages, they need to be cleaned and disinfected before you bring them home and start using them with your birds. And to keep germs away, you can restrict access to your birds. If visitors have their own birds, you can always tell them not to be in close contact with your birds. If it's possible, you can avoid visiting places with domestic outdoor birds, which I really can't because I visit sanctuaries and stuff like that. If you've been near other birds or bird owners, clean and disinfect your clothes, shoes, cages, or equipment before being in close contact with your birds. If your birds have been to a fair or exposition, you should keep them separate from your other birds for at least 2 weeks after the event. And if you bring new birds to your home, sanctuary, or farm, you should keep them separated from your established flock of birds for at least 30 days to make sure that they don't have the H5N1 bird flu or any other sickness. Create a barrier zone for your birds. Only allow the people caring for your birds to be in contact with them. Wild birds shouldn't be allowed to have contact with your flock because they could transmit germs and sickness. Take away dead birds in the appropriate way. Death is a normal part of life. It's a sad one, but it is a normal part of life. If one of your birds dies, you can tell the county extension agency, the state agriculture department, or your veterinarian for instructions on what to do. If you have birds without cages, identify high-risk areas. These are migration routes for wild birds or other areas where they congregate, especially aquatic wild birds. You can implement preventive measures for high-risk zones. You keep your birds in the interior of their enclosure or restrict access to the exterior. A solid covering or roof over their enclosure will help. Keep their food and water where wild birds cannot access it. You should keep your birds away from water that wild birds can get to that have germs or excrement from wild birds. And it's also this H5N1 flu has infected cattle. The presence of the bird flu virus has been confirmed in dairy cattle in 16 states. It has caused sporadic infections in mammals, both wild and domestic, in the United States. Some of the mammals it has infected are, of course, dairy cattle, bears, cats, and canines, which are dogs, the domestic canines, wolves, coyotes, any kind of canines can get it. The symptoms for cattle are loss of appetite, reduced milk production, and abnormal appearance of milk. Cows in their lactation time are more affected. The H5N1 bird flu has a high mortality rate in birds, but it hasn't had a high mortality rate in cattle. Most of the cattle infected recover with treatment. Movement of cattle from one location to another can increase risk, and the biosecurity is a major defense against the H5N1 in cattle, and I will research the biosecurity measures, and I can do a short on that because I'm not sure what they are for H5N1. Quarantine new cattle residents for 30 days separate from your established herd in case they do have any diseases, and you can catch them and tell the veterinarian before your established herd gets sick. And that's all the cattle information I have. I will let you know. I will be researching how it affects people, and if I find any information, I will do another video on how it affects people, or do a short, most likely. I will only have enough information to do a short. Nobody wants to tell how it affects people, but you can watch it in Spanish if you prefer to watch it in Spanish, because that one's already up. And if you want to know how the spread of bird flu from birds to mammals, including people, has anything to do with the Book of Revelation, I have a Christian and conservative channel. If I find any information on that, I will put it on Christian Right Hoof channel, and you can watch it on there. I'm still doing research. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.